the most hated airline in the world. And this is going to be crazy because I've probably flown like 30 times in my life on a plane, right? And I would say 90% of all the flights I've been on is with this flight right here because I can see it. It says Ryanair. I always fly with Ryanair.
Ryanair is the largest airline in Europe, flying over 180 million passengers every...
Wait, and a fun fact, chat. I used to not be scared of flying, and now I got to a point where I was terrified of flying, and I've got a feeling it might be because of this reason right here. We'll see. We'll see. It's Ryanair, because then I went to Greece a couple weeks ago, not on Ryanair, and it was the best flight I've ever had. So I think Ryanair might actually be the worst. They're probably correct.
Every year. And unlike most airlines, Ryanair offers flights for as little as $9.99. But for every passenger who loves Ryanair's cheap tickets, there's another one who has sworn never to fly with them again.
You know what? I'm not... Yeah. After being on a Ryanair flight, like, I don't know, 20-something times, I don't think I can go on Ryanair ever again. I think I've now changed.
Ryanair is infamous for charging ridiculous hidden fees, taking passengers to unexpected destinations, and changing their schedules at the very last minute.
Wait, okay, none of this has happened to me. None of this has happened to me.
And if you head to their social media accounts, you'll find that instead of helping out, Ryanair often just trolls their passengers, quite literally making memes out of their complaints. There are countless horror stories about flying Ryanair, but here's where things get weird.
Okay.
Behind the scenes, everything Ryanair does is actually genius. Even with such low prices, they have one of the highest profit margins.
By the way, guys, you're all freaking out over $10. That's their cheapest ever, which would be a very short flight, probably to like France or something, right? I've normally flown to like Greece and Spain, and it probably costs me per ticket maybe $40, $50 a ticket, maybe 70, 80. I don't know. No more than that. It is cheap. It is very cheap compared to other airlines.
In the entire airline industry, Ryanair's journey from a single plane to Europe's largest airline is fascinating. So strap yourself in, because the story of Ryanair is gonna be a wild ride.
Let me explain something to you. I set the rules and you follow them blindly.
But I need to tell you, when you go on a Ryanair flight and you're in the plane and you're actually flying, it does feel like the plane's gonna fall apart. It does. It feels very flimsy. That's probably why I'm terrified of flying.
Tony Ryan began Ryanair in 1984, starting off with just a single aircraft flying from Ireland to London. However, as they tried to expand and offer more routes, the business started losing more and more money. So Tony asked his personal assistant, Michael O'Leary, to take a look at the business. And what he found was a mess of unmerciful proportions. Michael's first assessment was that Ryanair should simply shut down because it was losing millions every year.
Damn!
But Tony said that wasn't an option.
Nope, let's make it
Michael's
cheap.
next assessment was that Ryanair needed to completely restructure itself and cut down their costs by whatever means necessary.
Yo, fun fact chat, right? I don't know if you guys seen online, but do you know what Ryanair was going to offer and do to their planes, right? They had an idea of, one, removing the toilet so they can add more seats. That got scrapped, okay? Removing the toilet, bro. Where's everyone gonna go, right? That got scrapped. Right? Then the next option was they was gonna remove a few seats and have stand-up aisles, so they could just cram people on like a bus. Stand up on a plane. Bro, stand where you hold on to something like you're on the train.
Tony trusted Michael, so he asked him to help make Ryanair profitable. They agreed a deal where instead of a salary, Michael would get 25% of any profits Ryanair made over $2 million. And Michael would lead the airline as chief executive.
Okay.
Given that Ryanair was losing millions a year, Tony doubted whether Michael would make any money at all from this deal. However, Michael realized that trying to offer a better service than the more established airlines was not the right option. And so the first thing Michael did was head over to America to check out Southwest Airlines, a company that was charging as little as $10 for some of their flights.
Oh, what is Southwest in America? Is that the equivalent to Ryanair? Is Southwest like a very cheap airline? Yeah, no, Kat. I don't think Ryanair is allowed to do any of their new ideas. I think they've scrapped for safety reasons, right? You can't have stand-up planes. Like, if you get really bad turbulence, you're going to have crazy injuries.
Michael wanted to study their process and figure out how they were offering fares so cheaply. And he was hugely impressed with what he saw. Michael compared Southwest's operations to a McDonald's. Every process, from checking the plane before a flight, to boarding the passengers, to the in-flight services, was optimized to increase efficiency.
Wait. How are we comparing a goddamn plane business to McDonald's? It's a bit different going to McDonald's and getting a £quarter meal, right? And leaving, then going to the airport and getting on a Ryanair flight and flying to a different country. So high in the sky. It's a bit different, mate.
And decrease operating costs. When he returned from the US, Michael was inspired and vowed he was going to turn Ryanair into an ultra low-cost airline that offered customers rock-bottom prices.
Yeah.
However, many questioned, with rock-bottom prices, how was Ryanair ever going to turn a profit? Well, Michael had a plan for that. And the best way to see it in action is for us to take a flight with Ryanair.
Well, I could have done that for you guys. Am I afraid to go on a flight to America? Funny enough, I'm not really thinking about it. I think because I'm not going on Ryanair, I'm going on a different plane, a safer plane. I think I'm going to be okay. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be my longest flight ever.
As with all flights, it starts when a customer buys a ticket. But you can only buy Ryanair tickets online. That way, the process is streamlined and they cut out travel agencies taking a commission.
Right.
Ryanair's tickets are especially cheap. But that's because customers are really only paying for a random seat on the plane. If you want to choose a seat so you can sit next to who you're traveling with, that's extra.
Yeah.
And if you want to take any luggage other than a backpack, that's extra too.
Right, yeah.
And these extra charges often amount to more than the ticket itself.
No, but most planes do that as well. Most planes, well, especially in the UK, luggage and booking your seat is extra.
Ryanair saves tons of money this way because most governments tax airlines on the airfare, but not the add-ons. Not just that, it means Ryanair are always going to be at the top of price comparison searches, as they're sorted based on ticket price, not including the extra hidden costs. Now, when you're booking your tickets, make sure you don't fill in any of your details incorrectly, as Ryanair can sometimes charge over €100 to make any changes.
Jeez.
Articles have pointed out that it is cheaper to legally change your name and passport than to change names on Ryanair tickets.
That's a problem.
When you arrive at the airport,
it's probably cheaper just to book a different seat. Like, rebook it. Instead of changing your flight ticket, just buy another ticket.
Ryanair saves on staff costs too by not having any check-in desks, and they'll charge a hefty fee to anyone that forgets to check in online. After this, the passengers head to the gate, which might be inconveniently far away. Airports charge airlines less for using certain gates.
Yeah, they
Ryanair
are the
always
furthest.
takes the cheapest ones.
Yeah, they are the
Next,
furthest.
the passengers head onto the plane. But instead of using a skybridge, Ryanair makes them take a bus and walk up the stairs.
Yeah, but then I went on a Jet 2 plane. You guys know about Jet 2. Save yourself $200. And they take you on a bus as well.
Because again, it's cheaper. Once inside, the passengers will see that there's no first class on Ryanair, because having only one type of seat streamlines the cleanup process after the flight. You'll also notice that the plane is absolutely crammed with passengers.
Yeah.
Ryanair uses mostly Boeing 737s, which typically seat around 170 passengers, but Ryanair stuff around 200 in the same space,
How?
the max that regulations allow.
Mate, is that why I'm so cramped on the plane? Because they're not meant to be that many. There's no legroom. There's zero legroom, man. Honestly, it is actually pain.
This means you won't have much legroom, and to make things worse, the seats can't be reclined.
No,
That's
they
because
can't.
these are the cheapest seats for Ryanair to buy and maintain.
Yo, I actually feel like I've not adjusted to the world yet. Because I'm going on a British Airways flight to New York, right? And I just recently learned that you can recline chairs on planes. I didn't know that was a thing. Because obviously I'm so used to Ryanair. I didn't know that was a thing. You can recline your seats. But then I also thought, if somebody reclines their seat in front of me on my flight, are they gonna piss me? Like, is that gonna annoy me? Like, I don't want somebody's chair going back into my face. Isn't that annoying? So I kind of don't like the fact that you can recline seats. I kind of like the fact that Ryanair, they're stable.
Buy and maintain. It also means some of their window seats don't have a window at all. In the case of seat 11A, this is what you're getting. Next up, the flight attendants give a safety brief. But instead of your typical safety brochure, the information is printed on the back of the seat's headrest. This way, there's no need for pockets on the back of the seats, which makes cleaning up way faster. And usually it's the flight attendants who do the cleaning themselves, which dramatically reduces Ryanair's staff bill.
Our people are our most important asset. No, they're our biggest expense.
Then the pilot introduces himself over the speakers.
Okay,
But
they
they're probably
all do
not
that.
a Ryanair employee. Instead of hiring pilots the traditional way, Ryanair makes them start their own companies in Ireland and then hires them as contractors. This way, they can avoid paying for health insurance or severance.
Bro, Ryanair are doing too much. Like, just up the standards a bit and just be a normal company.
The plane takes off, passengers will notice that there's no in-flight internet or screens to watch movies on.
I've never had internet on a plane or ever been on a plane with a screen. Jesus Christ, do I live in the year 2025? Why have I only flown with Ryanair? Bro, I've never had any of this. This sounds like luxury.
That's an unnecessary cost. And if you want any food mid-flight, or even just a glass of water, you're gonna have to pay. Nothing on the
What? Wait. The other planes, you get this for free? No, I don't believe that. You don't get food and water for free on planes, do you? There's no way.
plane is free.
You do? Wait, you guys get free food and drinks on your planes? Okay, I actually know an air hostess, right? And she told me they make roughly $8,000 a flight from the food and drinks alone. Every flight. Not flight there and back, just flight there. Bro, what?
So Ryanair turns what is an expense for other airlines into another revenue stream.
Why aren't I so
You
much
won't be waiting
Prime?
long though. The average Ryanair flight is just over 2 hours. This is optimal for fuel efficiency, and it also means a single plane can make upwards of 6 trips every day, which drives up Ryanair's revenue. But when the passengers land, they might find they're further away from their destination than they hoped. Ryanair usually flies to secondary airports outside big cities, as they charge much lower landing and takeoff fees. For example, the Ryanair ticket may say London, but instead of flying to one of the main airports like Heathrow, Ryanair may go to Luton, which is not...
Okay, right. This is the problem I hate. I've been to some weird ass airports with Ryanair, man, and I've had to get like a 3-4 hour coach to get to my location. Is this why? I didn't even know they went to the worst airports. I thought they just went to the main airport.
Even in London. Or in Barcelona, Ryanair uses an airport that's around 50 miles away from the city and requires an hour-and-a-half bus ride.
Wait, is it? Wait! I've actually flown with Ryanair to Barcelona. But I didn't land in Barcelona and I was very confused. Is there an airport closer? I had to pay for the coach. Jeez, I'm learning I've been scammed my whole life.
It's less convenient for customers, but Ryanair gets much bigger discounts from the airports. And many of these smaller airports become dependent on Ryanair for business, and so they give them incredible prices. Or another way Ryanair gets discounts from airports is they'll just fly at the least popular times. Finally, once the passengers have left, Ryanair begins—
Oh, that is another one as well. I always fly at the worst times with Ryanair as well. Always the worst times. Always night, and you get back at 3 a.m. or you leave. Oh, it's horrible.
unloading the plane, cleaning it, refueling it, and rotating the crew. This takes most airlines ages, but Ryanair has streamlined all these systems, so their planes are typically on the ground for just 30 minutes between flights.
Right.
And so that's a typical Ryanair flight. And it's clear their operations are incredibly efficient to cut costs in every way possible. However, this sometimes means doing things that may seem counterintuitive.
Don't tell
me! For
me.
example, you may think another way for Ryanair to lower their costs would be to buy older planes for lower prices. But in reality, they do the exact opposite. Ryanair always buys the newest planes available.
That's
because
good.
long term, they waste the least amount of fuel, which is one of the largest expenses for an airline. In fact, Ryanair is notorious for making massive orders of only Boeing 737s. By buying a single model in bulk, they can negotiate a lower average price per plane, and then streamline their whole operation further. Because by only using one kind of plane, it means they only have to buy one kind of seat and one kind of fuel. They only have to train one kind of crew on one kind of process. These ultra-efficient strategies are why Ryanair can charge less than €30 for their average flight,
Mad.
and still clear an outrageous profit margin of around 35% sometimes.
Wait, how do they charge for... I don't understand how they make profit though. €30 times 200 passengers is €6,000 a flight. Surely they spend more on that on fuel. Surely. Like, how are they getting away with 6,000 a flight? That don't make sense.
Whilst most European airlines are
How
lucky
do
to
they
reach
make profit?
6%, and the global average was barely 2.7%.
Everybody looks at Ryanair
Yeah, they're not flying far, to be fair. I think the longest Ryanair flies, the longest is probably like 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours.
And they're all looking at it. There's one secret. There's, they bought planes cheaply, or
They
oh,
mainly
they just
do,
treat
like,
people
close
badly, or
journeys.
they do. Every single line of our operation is smarter, lower cost, or more efficient than almost every other line.
Some other airlines have now copied some of these strategies.
Oh yeah, they are making like, double 6K on the food and drinks. And then the extras as well. So yeah, they're probably making what, 20 grand a flight? That one plane flies 6 times a day. Yeah, so they are making millions, but like that flight, I wonder how much a flight for like 2 hours or an hour and a half fuel, how much that costs.
After seeing how well they worked, but very few airlines take things as far as Ryanair. However, whilst these ruthless cost-cutting strategies might be brilliant in a business sense, they have made Ryanair one of the most hated airlines in the world. And Ryanair's response to this is far from ordinary.
We don't care.
Before we get to the next chapter, it's time to answer a question. This video has a even saves down. Michael O'Leary, Ryanair's CEO, has often made the news for some of his wild ideas about how Ryanair could cut costs even further. He said he wanted to charge passengers to use the bathroom, remove toilets.
Oh, see, this is what I was telling you earlier. Remove toilets. Bro, in what world do you think, let's remove toilets on a plane? Where are people going to shit and piss, mate? And it was going to charge for the bathrooms.
Even further.
I forgot about
that. He said
that.
he wanted to charge passengers to use the bathroom, remove toilets completely to add more seats, introduce a fat tax.
Yo, imagine a fat tax. Hey, buddy, you're fat. You gotta pay $50, man. What do you mean I gotta pay $50? Well, you're fat. You gotta pay $50. It's the new fat tax.
And even sell standing tickets. He points
Bro, this is what I'm talking about. Bro, the standing tickets and the removing seats, bro, all of this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
out, these measures would allow Ryanair to offer cheaper flights, which is ultimately what consumers want. And in some cases, there may be some logic to it.
It would make perfect sense to me to charge for toilet access. One, it would reduce the number of people who are bothering other passengers getting up and down going to the toilet on board a flight. And two, I think we'd have...
They're getting up and down to go toilet on the flight because they need the toilet. Bruh.
fewer passengers using the toilets, and then we'd have less people queuing around the toilets on board the aircraft.
None of these ideas have...
Well, you'd have less people queuing on toilets around the aircraft because there is no fucking toilets. They'll just be pissing and shitting in their chair.
Actually happen though. And Michael later said he'd often just say things they had no intention of actually doing to help generate free marketing.
And we generated
Smart.
huge amounts of free publicity. Why? Because we'd no money for advertising, we'd no money for PR. So you needed some kind of loudmouth Paddy to be out there saying outrageous things like charging for toilets, and we're taking out the seats in the standing room only. None of which we actually planned to do, but it generated acres and acres of free publicity.
Ryanair saved a fortune on marketing by simply having Michael do interviews and say outlandish things to get headlines.
Bro, if that's actually true and he didn't just try and revert what he said, then that's smart marketing. But I reckon he did actually want to do those things. And he's just thinking, you know what? I'm just going to say that we just said it for marketing.
Which always led to more people checking out Ryanair's website and buying tickets. For example, when he was questioned why passengers are charged €20 just to print their boarding passes at the airport, Michael replied, "Well, I think they should pay €60 for being so stupid." He also said, if drink sales are falling off, we get the pilots to engineer a bit of turbulence. That usually spikes drink sales. Another way Michael helped...
Have I been scammed here? Because I have bought drinks on the plane because of the turbulence. Have I been played? Have I been... I don't know if he's the smartest man on the planet or he's a fucking scumbag. It worked because I bought the drinks.
Ryanair get free marketing was with creative promotions designed to get maximum attention.
We used one of our first best ones was we did this Valentine's Day promotion, which was 69 for 2.
However, not everyone sees the funny side. You'll find plenty of Ryanair horror stories and tens of thousands of one-star reviews. Some newspapers started having an entire...
Okay, I've got... As a Ryanair user myself, right? I do have a nightmare horror story of Ryanair. Nightmare. One of my worst ever times ever. Whole plane experience. So I flown to, it was Greece actually, it was like 8 years ago. I flown to Greece, Rhodes, and it was Ryanair. And I flown in, absolutely fine. It was time to go back home. I went to go back home, 3 hour delay. 3 hour delay, I was waiting, and then the plane arrived, right? They're getting us ready to go on the plane, right? The delay is fine, it gets worse. So we get ready to go on the plane. Right? Please tell me why they're walking us up to this plane that does not look like a Ryanair plane. It says in massive text on the side, DJ something. And the air hostess are saying, they're not Ryanair hostess, right? They're random ones saying, oh, this is a DJ plane. DJs plays on this, it's really fun. I said, is this the right flight? Is this the Ryanair flight to Nottingham? She was like, yeah, they switched your flight to this different flight. Got on the flight. Bro. Yo, you know the inside of Air India that unfortunately went down this year? It looked like that. It was so rough on the inside. It literally looked like they had a party in the plane and torn it to shreds. It was messy. Right? We got into the air. I already thought the worst case. I thought I was going to die on the flight. I thought I was dead. Right? We got on the plane. We're in the air. For the whole entire, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even that scared of turbulence. I don't like flying, but I'm not terrified of turbulence, yeah? For the whole 4-hour journey, I shit you not, the plane is just aggressively shaking. There wasn't 1 minute on that flight where it wasn't shaking. I thought the plane was going to fall apart. I thought the plane, I don't know what plane they put me on. It was an absolute fucking, I actually think that's where my fear of flying spiked from. Is that flight right there. Because I used to be good with flying and it got worse and worse and worse as the years went on. Now I don't, now my last flight I didn't fly Ryanair, now I feel better. But yeah, no, it was so bad.
I had a column dedicated to Ryanair
So
complaints
bad.
as there were so many. Like a woman who was charged 300 euros for Ryanair to print out her boarding pass. But
That's
Michael has openly
crazy.
stated he feels customers paying cheap airfares have no right to complain when things go wrong. He said, "We don't want to hear your sob stories. What part of no refund don't you understand?"
Mad.
Another example was when hundreds of passengers were forced to spend the night at the airport after their flight was cancelled.
Oh,
And many
that would be
asked if
horrible.
Ryanair would provide accommodation. Michael said, "Absolutely not. You booked a flight, not a hotel." One of their most controversial policies was forcing the disabled to pay up to 25 euros for the use of a wheelchair. One lady said, "Despite booking wheelchair assistance, I had to ask a fellow passenger to push me to the departure gate. And upon my return, I sat for an hour waiting for assistance on the plane, getting colder and colder." Almost any other company would offer goodwill gestures when things like this happen. But instead, Ryanair takes a different approach. When you go to Ryanair's social media, you'll find that instead of helping out, they're making memes from their passengers' complaints. For example, when passengers complain they paid for a seat but didn't get a window, Ryanair simply responds, "Read that again but slowly. You paid for a seat." Another
You know what? I actually don't mind their humor side. Like, I don't mind that. Their flights are terrible, but their jokes online are they're kind of funny.
asked them where their window was, and Ryanair replied, "Pay for the baggage you've stored under your jumper, and then we can talk." One of their most viral posts was when a customer complained about the very narrow stairs Ryanair used, and said, "I'll bring my own stairs next time."
Wait, what? Are these not normal stairs? Are these not normal stairs? What are normal stairs meant to look like? I'm trying to think, what did it look like when I went on Jet 2? Oh, Jet 2 was a lot bigger stairs, but I thought that was because it was a bigger plane. It was a bigger plane. Wait, what?
Ryanair used, and said, "I'll bring my own stairs next time." But Ryanair responded, "Bring your own plane next time." Some people questioned, should a company be responding this way instead of apologizing? But another said, they charged extra for everything except Twitter roasts. No regular airline would ever do this, but in Ryanair's case, it's actually a genius strategy. Ryanair has millions of followers, and their troll posts regularly go viral, which directly leads to more ticket sales. They've embraced their reputation of being stingy, as it means everyone thinks of them as the low-cost airline.
They are
and as a
low
result
cost.
of all these strategies, Ryanair
Like, chat, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've flown Ryanair most of the time because planes are to get you from A to B. Ryanair is gonna do it the cheapest way. So, like, you know, now that I've been on different planes, I'm not going on Ryanair again. Right? But I was oblivious because I only flown Ryanair. I didn't know better. You know what I'm saying? When Izzy's sisters went on wait, did they go on a Ryanair? I think they did. I think they went on a Ryanair flight and then said, yeah, they would never ever go on one ever. Like, ever again. Like, they're that bad. They're that bad. But because I only went on Ryanair, I didn't know what was better.
Ryanair carries far more passengers than any other airline in Europe. Their typical airfare goes for less than 30 euros, and they've sold flights for as little as $4.99. They might not treat you like royalty, but they're pretty honest about what they are. Love them or hate them, they've given people the option to fly all over Europe at prices that are often cheaper than train tickets. So there's no doubt they've made air travel affordable for millions of people. However, remember how Michael compared their efficiency to McDonald's? Well, that's because McDonald's pioneered something called the Speedy Service System, which is genius. Just click this video now.
Jeez. Well, yeah, now I know better, chat. Now that I went on a Jet 2 flight, And now I'm going on British Airways. I don't think I'll ever go back on a Ryanair.